Good evening. On the world news tonight from BGI TV Currents. First, the headlines. 12 million households to get 8,000 naira for 6 months, says Tinubus. Reps approves Tinubus 500 billion naira request for palliatives. Subsidy removal. Reps demand increase in salaries, allowances. Senate screens service chiefs in closed-door sessions. And on sport, Wadron admits injury worries ahead of Super Falcons versus Canada. I am Morire Rebila Lawal. The news shortly. President Bola Ahmed Tinubus has said 12 million families will get 8,000 naira over a period of 6 months to ameliorate the hardship faced by Nigerians as a result of the removal of fuel subsidy. In a letter to the House of Representatives read by the Speaker Tajuddin Abbas, during plenary on Tuesday, Tinubus said it was support to enable poor and vulnerable Nigerians cope with the cost of meeting basic needs. The letter was for approval for additional financing for the National Society and Social Safety Net program scaled up by the National Assembly. He said this would have a multiplier effect on about 60 million individuals. In order to guarantee the credibility of the process, he said digital transfers will be made directly to beneficiaries' accounts. Moving on to the next story. The House of Representatives has approved the request of President Bola Ahmed Tinubus for an amendment to the 2022 Appropriation Act. The approval followed Tinubus' request for 500 billion naira for palliative to Nigerians in order to reduce the hardship caused by subsidy removal. The amendment passed first phase, second and third readings during plenary on Wednesday. However, the House on Thursday approved the President's request after members of the House made contributions. Going on to the next story. Members of the House of Representatives are demanding an upward review of their salaries and allowances following the removal of fuel subsidy and current economic situation in the country. Information gathered that the demand was the outcome of a meeting and with the lawmakers had on July 11th after going into an executive session during plenary. Information reported that complaints from members arising from salaries and allowances forced the House to go into executive session in order to douse tension. The lawmakers had always demanded from the Speaker, Rep. Tajuddin Abbas, the reason for the delay in the payment of the salaries and allowances, causing some of them to resort to loans. However, one of the lawmakers who was at the meeting, but great anonymity because he was not permitted to speak on the outcome of the executive session, dismissed the rumor. Refuting the speculations, the lawmakers said they only told the Speaker that their salaries and allowances could no longer meet the demand of their job, and a review was necessary. So nobody talked about any money or whether we are being paid or not, the lawmaker explained. The source said their request was a sequel to the current economic reality following the subsidy removal, which had caused hardship, making goods and services skyrocket in the country. The lawmakers, however, said the Speaker did not promise them anything on the review of the salaries and allowances because such demand could only be accommodated in the budget after due process. Moving on to the next story. The Senate has commenced the process of confirmation of the recently appointed service chiefs, as earlier requested by President Bola Ahmed Tinubus in a letter he wrote to the Senate. Tinubus had on Tuesday this week asked the nation's apex legislative assembly to confirm the appointment of the new service chiefs. He made a request in a letter dated July 5th, 2023, and addressed to the President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, which he read on the floor of the chamber at plenary. The service chiefs who are currently undergoing screening in closed-door session in the Red Chamber are Major General Christopher Musa, Chief of Defense Staff, Major T.A. Lagbaja, Chief of Army Staff, Rear Admiral Ikechukwu Ogala, Chief of Naval Staff, and Air Vice Marshal H.B. Abubakar, Chief of Air Staff. From that story, we go to the next one. The Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, has vowed drastic actions if the federal government fails to prevail upon the Petroleum Tanker Drivers (PTD) to stop forthwith the illegal levy imposed on their members. Eight-man National Public Relations Officer (PRO) Yakubu Suleiman said during a news conference in Abuja on Wednesday that he followed a meeting of the Central Working Committee on the association. Mr. Suleiman said it had become imperative for Nigerians, especially the federal government and the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL), to know those allegedly sabotaging the distribution of petroleum multi-spirit (PMS) in the country. We want the government and NNPCL to be aware that Petroleum Tanker Drivers (PTD) as an association is allegedly the #1 enemy of fuel subsidy removal and deregulation, he said. Mr. Suleiman said the PTD had allegedly exhibited an act of sabotage on PMS distribution by levying Ipman members 23,000 naira for each truck loaded at the depot. He described the levy as an extortion while calling on President Bola Tinubus and the NPCL to call the tanker drivers to order. Moving on to the next story. The Ohaneze Indigo Socio-Cultural Organization has accused Finland-based agitator Simon Ekpa of declaring a second Biafra War in the southeast. Ohaneze made the allegations while announcing a $500,000 bounty on Ekpa. In a statement by Okechukwu Izeguzoro, Ohaneze's Secretary General, the group urged President Bola Tinubus to deploy soldiers to every corner of the southeast. Speaking, he said, "We are telling Tinubus that the second Biafra War has begun and he should deploy soldiers to all the nook and crannies of the southeast. The southeast governors need help and Ohaneze is asking the southeast governors to defend themselves from external enemies. At this point in time, we can't allow somebody in faraway Finland to dictate pace. The government of Ebonyi State in southeast must ensure that terrorist activities of Ekpa are solved in its own land. What we are saying is that Ekpa has declared a second civil war in the southeast and anybody with useful information will be given $500,000. Moving on to the next story. A federal high court in Abuja has dismissed a fundamental rights enforcement suit filed by Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the Proscribed Indigenous People of Biafra (IPOB), against the Department of State Services (DSS). Information report that Justice James Omotosho, in a judgment delivered on Thursday, held that Kanu's suit lacked merit and ought to be dismissed. Kanu had sued the DSS, its Director General, and the Attorney General of the Federation, alleging that he was being subjected to inhuman treatment by a security agency. He specifically accused the DSS of denying him the right to wear any clothes of his choice, including the Igbo traditional attire called Isiago. Kanu also alleged that the DSS had tortured him and breached his right to dignity. However, the DSS denied the allegation, saying that Kanu was being treated in accordance with the standard operating procedure for persons in its custody. The DSS also said that Kanu had been allowed to wear any plain clothing of his choice, but that he has refused to do so. They accused Kanu's family of bringing traditional ties and clothing with Biafra signs for him to wear in custody and to attend court for his trial. In his judgment, Justice Omotosho said that Kanu had failed to provide evidence to support his allegations of torture or inhuman treatments. Moving on to the next story. A federal capital territory high court has ordered the Department of State Services (DSS) to charge Godwin Emefele, suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN), to court to release him. Information report that the judge gave the DSS 1 week to either charge Emefele to court if they have criminal allegations against him or release him on bail. The order was made by Justice Hamza Mohazu on Thursday after an application by Joseph Daudu, counsel to Emefele. Through his counsel, Emefele demanded a compensation of 5 million naira as damages for his alleged unlawful detention. Justice Mohazu ruled that the Department of State Services (DSS) has the power to make arrests, detain people, and prevent internal crime. However, he said that these duties must be carried out within the law. The judge specifically stated that the DSS arrest power is not unlimited. There are stipulated conditions under which a Nigerian citizen can be held and for how long. These conditions must be met in order for an arrest to be lawful. Emefele has been in detention since his arrests on June 9th after President Bola Tinubus suspended him and ordered a probe of the Apex Bank. The president asked him to transfer his responsibilities to Folashodun Adebisi Shonobi, Deputy Governor Operations Directorate. From that story, we go to the next story. Moving on to the next story, Thai authorities on Thursday detained 3 German nationals and a 27-year-old Pakistani man in connection with the discovery of the dismembered body of a German businessman in Thailand. The Bangkok Post newspaper said the German suspects are a 52-year-old man and 2 women, aged 52 and 54. According to the paper, all the suspects denied anything to do with the death of the 62-year-old businessman. The victim had been reported missing on July 4th. His body was discovered on Monday in a freezer on property in Nong Tro, a suburb of well-known holiday resort in Pattaya in Chonburi province. Moving on to the next story. A suspected militant group believed to be the Black Marines operating in the Atabong East IC, Idabato subdivision in the Bakassi Peninsula, has reportedly attacked a speedboat and shot 2 persons dead. A reliable source in the area told reporters that the incident happened Thursday morning. Another added that the militants also carted away helmets and other items meant to be delivered to all workers. The sources said they are thought to be pro-Biafran separatists, adding that the boat belonged to some foreign oil workers. They said the boat was conveying cartons of helmets to deliver to oil workers at the maritime border in Bakassi Peninsula. The incident has left both Nigerians and Cameroonians panicking. Moving on to the end of today's world news from sports. Around the world run has disclosed that some Super Falcons players are suffering from injuries just 11 days before the Group B opener with Canada at this year's Women's World Cup. Wardrum disclosed this in a video interview posted on the Super Falcons Twitter handle. When asked if there are injury worries, Wardrum said, "Couple of knocks, couple of injuries that concern me a little bit, but outside of that they are healthy, so it's all about their performance and how they play." Wardrum, however, described the camping exercise as very good so far. "It's been very good, camp has gone really well with the players, are really working hard. The talent level is good, we are happy with what we are and having in camp, which is day 5, so it's been fun to watch." With that sports story, we've come to the end of today's world news from BGI TV Current. Before we go, some major headlines. 12 million households to get 8,000 naira for 6 months, Tinubus tells Nigerians. Reps approved Tinubus 500 billion naira request for palliatives. Reps demand increase in salaries, allowances. We're also brought to you on sport. Wardrum admits injury blow for Super Falcons against Canada at the FIFA Women's World Cup. Thank you for watching today's world news from BGI TV Current. For updates of our broadcasts on YouTube, our handle is BGI TV Current. Kindly subscribe and click on the notification bell. Select option all to access all of our broadcasts. On Facebook, Bagede Imo with Alawi Adebayo. Please like and follow the page. Thank you for watching once again. I am Morire Rabila Lawan. Good evening.